Here's what I learned being single this year. What's going on, guys? So today I figured that I would give you 4 really big things that I learned this year from my time being single. Now, I wasn't single for the entirety of this year, but the parts that I was single for, I feel like I learned a lot. Like, God really has used this past year just to teach me so many things. A lot of them were really difficult things for me to have to learn. A lot of them were me experiencing heartache or, just doing a lot of looking and searching and not finding. So if you're new to the channel, and I know that a lot of these kind of dating and relationship videos end up kind of getting recommended to people outside of my normal subscribers. You know, some of the things about me, I'm a devout Christian. I'm saving myself for marriage. I just have a lot of different things that kind of factor into it being hard to find exactly what I'm looking for. And, with my generation being, 22 years old, it's really hard to find people that are my age that are actually looking for like a relationship and like dating towards marriage, because most people these days that are my age are thinking about sleeping around and drinking and doing drugs and partying, all of that sort of stuff, and I'm not at all interested in any of that stuff. And so a lot of the time, someone that I might find really attractive or that might have a great personality, our eternities don't line up. So that's really, really important to me. It's the most important thing to me is my relationship with Christ. And if a relationship can't complement that, then I would rather stay single than be in that relationship. So let's go ahead and get down to the things that I have learned this year from my time being single. And a lot of this stuff I really honestly learned really recently, like a few weeks ago, because I wasn't thinking about making this video. But then I just kind of felt a lot of peace about making this video. So the number one thing, and this is in no particular order, but I think I'll start with this one. The number one thing is that I've learned to slow down. I think that Christians in particular, once they start to get to their early 20s and they start to see some other people in really serious relationships, see some people getting married, they start to think to themselves, okay, I really need to make sure that I have a career and a job, and then I need to go and find somebody that I can start a family with, like settle down and get married. And I was very much that way. Like, if you ask me right now, like if you could meet someone and, it was obviously the right time and like you could settle down and get married right now, like, yeah, I would probably do it. But to force it and to feel like you're almost like running out of time, it's really making marriage like your idol, because I've kind of come to more realize at this point that if I'm not in that season of my life, if this isn't where God wants me to be, if this isn't the person or the time, then I don't want to force something that God doesn't have in his plan right now. And so just really realizing and trying to trust God with his timing and just letting him know, I really want to be in that season of my life, hopefully soon. Like, I would really like to find the person for me. But if right now needs to be a time of growth and a time where I'm figuring stuff out, figuring out who I need to be for the kingdom of heaven, then that's fine too. And I've realized a lot of stuff about that recently. The second thing that I've learned, and this is probably the biggest thing that I've learned, is that I've learned to be joyful even when I'd lost everything that I thought would make me happy. So to start this year, I was in a relationship and I had really high hopes for that relationship, even though there were a lot of things about it that were wrong, and that, not even that they were wrong, but that I didn't feel like I was making progress with my relationship with God the way that I wanted to. And I felt like that was what gave me happiness. Like I always kind of thought to myself, oh, well, when I find the right person and when I have that sort of relationship, then yeah, I'm going to be happy all of the time. Or, at least be a lot more joyful with what I had. I think that a lot of the time as humans, we hear people say, oh, don't get caught up in like the hamster wheel of life or the hamster wheel of success, where it's like you get one thing and you're just constantly chasing after the next thing. That's going to make me happy. When I get a car, when I get a house, when I get a wife, all of that stuff. And I kind of thought, oh, well, that might not be for real though. Like I feel like when I actually get that stuff, like I'll find a way to be happy when I have that stuff. And I wasn't happy when I had that sort of thing. Like unless it's really bringing you closer to Christ, really giving you peace and joy in that department, it's not worth it. And so I've really realized, even in the past like month or so, like I would not have made the kind of realizations that I'm making right now as far as being joyful if I was in a relationship, because that's so distracting. Like no matter how bad things were going with basketball, if I had someone that I felt like I was really secure in my relationship with them and I could find like identity in that relationship, I probably would have dove even deeper into that rather than into my faith in Christ. And I feel like that's something that has completely changed my life, even in just the past month or so. Like my outlook is so much different on everything, and I'm so thankful to God for that. It sounds weird, but I'm thankful that God put me in the season that I'm in right now. The number 3 thing that I've learned is I've learned just how special the person for me is going to have to be. So I've had little bits and pieces of the right thing in my relationship history. The kind of things that I feel like the Lord wants for me in a relationship. And that's, as far as like political beliefs, like do you know what's going on in the world? And a lot of Christians think that politics and faith doesn't go together. But let me tell you, when they're killing babies and when they are trying to shut down churches, your political beliefs all of a sudden become really important. As far as like, do they want to do Bible studies with me? Does somebody want to do that daily devotional? Like dig deep into the word, like ask questions and really seek the Lord. And that was something that I felt like before this year, I didn't know just how seriously I was going to need to take that. I kind of was asking God, like, how seriously do you want my significant other, like my girlfriend, to take this stuff? Like, is it enough that this person is just like willing to pray with me, willing to do all this stuff? Or God, do you want me to be with a person that's going to initiate all of that stuff, that's going to pull forward with me? And I really feel like the Lord wants me to be with someone that pulls with me, that I'm not just kind of, come on, let's go. Like, God is that way. That's something that I really feel like God has shown me in the past year, is just how high my standards need to be, just how high God's standards are. And that's something for those of you that are watching that feel like God hasn't brought you the person that is like ideal for you, so you're kind of thinking of settling, or you're like, oh, well, this person checks a lot of the boxes. Let me tell you that God, I think if you just give your singleness over to Him and really just take your time and are patient and trust in God, that He has somebody for you that's going to just blow your mind, in my opinion. And obviously I'm here as someone that's single and that hasn't gotten that, but I really think that when we don't idolize something, and when we make God the priority that He's supposed to be, and when we ask for the right things, that God is going to heap on top of that the things that your heart really desires as well. And the 4th and final thing that I've learned in my year of singleness is basically that I've learned that the timing isn't always right. And sometimes you learn lessons that you wouldn't have learned if you were in a relationship when you're single. And this is something that I've already kind of touched on a little bit in the video, but you can meet the best person ever, and for some reason they're not in a position where they can be in a relationship with you, or it could even be that they're not even really interested in you. The person that's supposed to be your wife, or the person that's supposed to be your husband, might not be at all in the stage in their life right now where you need to be with them or where they need to be with you. Like, for me, a few years ago, before I took my faith as seriously as I do now, whoever is supposed to be my wife one day might have looked at that version of Sam and not been attracted. And, you know, that can, and here's the thing. Here's one thing that frustrates a lot of guys, I think in particular, is that guys feel like they're very much judged based on what they can provide. So, you know, how much money do I make? What kind of car do I drive? You know, do I have a house? You know, am I living with my parents? You know, all of that sort of stuff. And I think that a lot of the time women, you know, they get really impatient and they want someone that's really got their stuff together and that's really, you know, standing alone on their own 2 feet. But I think that God also put that biological desire in women to be provided for. So I think that there's kind of a balance. You know, I think that women can look at a guy's trajectory, particularly if they're like still in school and all of that stuff, and they have, you know, time to wait. Like, if a guy is doing his best to support a family somewhere down the line, then you don't need to wait for, you know, some 30-year-old guy that does have all of his stuff together. You're marrying a trajectory. The same person isn't going to be the same person or have all of the same things 5 years down the road from what they have now. But for guys, on the same, you know, on the same token, or by the same token, if you're a guy and you have absolutely no prospects for yourself, why do you think that a good godly woman is going to want to marry you if you have absolutely no plans for school, for work, for any of that stuff, and you're just kind of like, you know, coasting and just going with the flow, seeing where life takes you? Because that's not a biblical not a biblical concept. Like, the Bible is very clear that, like, if you don't work, like, you don't eat. And darn sure, if you don't work, like, why would a woman want to hitch her wagon to yours? Like, you need to get out there and try to make something of yourself. At the very least, first and foremost, figure out your faith, become really strong in your faith and in your chase after Christ, because you'll meet whoever you need to meet along the way if you're on that road. Anyway, guys, that was just sort of a little side tangent, but you get the idea. Those were 4 things that I learned being single this year. I hope that really helps some people out, kind of gives some people some perspective, maybe makes somebody feel not so alone being single, because being single, while it's really cliche at this point, being single, you can learn a lot of stuff and you can still enjoy your season of singleness. But anyway, guys, if you like this kind of content, subscribe for more. I can't guarantee you that all of the content going forward will be any sort of relationship content, because I'm just kind of trying to go with whatever I feel like God is telling me that I should make. But I will see you guys next weekend. I love every single one of you. Thanks, guys.